another one for y'all to peep. It's called MIKE on the MIC.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of On the Mic with Mike. I am your host, Mike Larkin, and joining me today is adult star and a very talented and amazing one at that, Miss Sydney Screams. Sydney, it's a pleasure and a privilege. How are you?
Good. How are you? It's great to be here.
Thank you. I cannot complain. First and foremost, I've seen a lot of your work. You do a lot of great work in general when it comes to the adult entertainment industry, so you are really shining, hitting on all cylinders right now.
Thank you so much. I've been trying. It's been a very weird and long journey for me because I've technically been doing this about 15 years now. And for the most part, I've always tried to fly purposefully under the radar until the pandemic hit. And then I was like, well, who cares about a vanilla career? Let's just work from home and do my own thing. And I haven't looked back since.
Well, you also have to look at it from a stance too as well. I think even as bad as the pandemic was, and we're coming back to that sense of normalcy, that quote unquote normalcy, if you will, it's one of those things when you're in a pandemic and you have to be positively proactive and really be creative with what we're doing. And it's helped a lot of people in the adult entertainment industry with OnlyFans coming into fruition and many vids and everything in general. It's like it's really been a spike for a lot of content creators such as yourself.
Yeah, it really has. I've been around, gosh, I've seen platforms come and go. I remember when OnlyFans first started, I think in like 2016, there's been a lot of changes, especially with the pandemic, that has kind of made it so sex work is a lot more sustainable for a lot of people, while also expanding the number of platforms that exist for us to be on.
Right. And I mean, you're talking about doing this thing for 15 years. And it's funny to think about it from 15 years ago. So I was a kid, I grew up in the 90s, and you look at sites in 2005, the first ever. It's funny to think about it now and to reminisce how much have we evolved as far as the adult community goes and fetish work and stuff. The first website I remember, and I don't remember, I think a lot of people remember this one, it was very low key. There was a site called girlshuntinggirls.com, and the premise behind this website was it's scenes with girls picking up girls on the side, and then boom, here's your sex scene. We've come from that to X Hamsters and Pornhubs and a lot of streaming platforms. So it's amazing to see sites where it's okay, here's a site where you could pay membership to, which still exists, but we've gone so far into the streaming realm. It's amazing to see.
It's wild. I remember membership sites used to be a lot of people's bread and butter, and now it's very different. Fan sites are a lot of people's bread and butter, and even that wasn't the case 5 years ago. 5 years ago, clip sites were everyone's bread and butter, and especially for indie performers, that is. And even some of the major companies are now on ManyVids. I've seen Spazoo is on there. I've seen Plumber Passes on there. I've seen all of these big companies. They're having the same issues that us independent creators are having, where they're having to change up their business models, not just from membership sites, but also pivoting onto clip sites, because even for them, it's a noticeable income increase.
Right.
So.
And I think, and it's the accumulation of money. And what I also like about it too is as well, again, people can look at it from a pervy side of things when you look at adult content and stuff, but also at the same time, if you're paying your bills, if you're not hurting anyone, if you're doing what you love, and obviously yourself and many great content creators do what they love, it's one of those things too, Mike. We still live in a world where there are some people that are just ignorant as fuck, and I'll put it bluntly as that. But it's just we're seeing a lot more, hopefully, and I'll say this, and I hope to be, this is my optimism coming out. We have people that expand their horizons and are more open-minded, that we get to see a lot of this great stuff, and especially in the year 2022.
I definitely agree. I think that as I've started doing a lot more hardcore work over the past, I guess, 18 months now, 19 months now, it's really expanded my fetish business too, because people see someone like me that they're attracted to and realize oh, she also caters to my obscure niche fetish. And it all just kind of goes hand in hand, I think. People finding me, finding out new fetishes about themselves, and I'm here to just love and encourage everyone to be happy. I'm an entertainer. If people come to me and they're not happy after seeing my content, okay, we need to talk about that. What do you need therapy? And not to say that anything's wrong with people, but sometimes we all need therapy.
Hey, I feel But no, I think with you, and I'll say this right now, you do have that voluptuosity factor about you that's very appealing, and you got the gravitational pull. So I'll give you props on that. You truly do. You're, hey, well, facts are facts. I mean, I always tell this every time I have an adult star on, and really just people of all facets of life. It's interesting because, unfortunately, again, we talk about that ignorance. We still live in a world where there's unfortunately shaming, whether it be body shaming or just shaming in general. It's always funny, and I think just me looking at us, we look at ourselves like when I was a teenager, looking at adolescents. I just turned 30 this year, right? I'm like, God dang, man, you like look at scenarios in your life, whether it comes to relationships or how you interact and how you really set yourself up for this thing that we call life, right? So I remember as like when I was in, geez, like my senior year of high school or just like coming out of high school, still young, right? You're 18, you're 19. And it's like, I'll be honest, as a young man interacting with a lot of amazing girls, a lot of girls that, gravitated and kind of had that pull towards me were plus size girls, and I'll say that right now. That's why a lot of the plus size girls have a close place to my heart. Because you see, I didn't judge. I looked at the women for them, and I looked at them from the internal and external beauty standpoint, which is what I still use that mindset today. And mind you, this plays out into situations where we see like our friends, maybe some of our peers will be like, man, and I'm like, no, I don't care what her size is. I mean, it doesn't matter to me as long as I like that person, we have that connection. That's really what matters. And I mean, mind you, it's simple as that, but some people don't see it that way.
They really don't. And it's such a shame because, like, yes, looks are nice and important, but I'm someone who's very much attracted to personalities. Like, if I've dated people that are considered ugly by societal standards, which is such a shame because they've been such beautiful and kind and generous and wonderful people to be with. And, if anything, I don't have a type when it comes to the types of people I date. I've dated everyone from skinny individuals to people bigger, larger than I am. People are always shocked when I tell them I've dated BHMs. I've dated skinny girls. I've dated twinks. I've dated all over the appearance spectrum. And at the end of the day, it's not so much what they look like on the outside. It's, are they a good person? How do they treat me? How do they treat my pets? How do they react to my career? Because a lot of people aren't comfortable with my career. And to me, that's an instant, sorry, bye. It's, people like to judge based on appearance because it's the first thing we see. We judge books by their covers. We judge each other by how we look. And, I've always hated that because how I look isn't necessarily how I feel. I can look sexy as fuck and feel dead inside that day. That's just how life is.
Right. And I think a lot of us struggle with that, whether it be in mental health, I'm going to say right now is very real. I've gone through it. I'm sure you've gone through it. We've all gone through it. And I mean, there's some days where like that depression kicks in. It's like, okay, we have that smile on the outside, but internally it's like, man, we are suffering and we're not in the right frame of mind, but we have a great way of, projecting that, facade, if you will, to put it bluntly, because we do. But it's one of those things too, as well. And this is what I love about you. And I turn this around full circle. You mentioned the confidence factor. I can see that in your work, and I can see as we're talking here today, the confidence and the personality. It does. I think what radiates and shines through with the one person should not be about the looks and stuff. But if you have that ability to, again, showcase your stuff and really be yourself, but with the volume turned up a little more, you know what I'm saying, like that full volume, if you will, it's something that's very appealing, and it really shows off one's character and it shows off one's being. So that helps a lot.
I think you're right. At the end of the day, I'm an entertainer and I'm an actress. But if I'm not feeling confident about a role, if I'm not feeling confident about a shoot, if I'm not feeling confident about my co-star, it always shows through. And confidence is just such a huge part of success within this industry. And even the part of confidence where you're just faking it until you make it, because let's be real, I've been down that path. It was earlier on in my career, but I've always felt the pressure to fake it until I make it. And even now, I make 100% of my living off of sex work. And sometimes it's hard to feel confident in that because this industry is very volatile and it's not guaranteed stability income based. It's some months I make 10,000. Some months I make 4,000. And that's a really big difference to a lot of people. And having the confidence that okay, this is just a slow month. It's the summer, for example. Like, summer is always slow for me. Having the confidence to know that this is going to end is one of the best things that someone can have confidence in this industry that has nothing to do with appearance. It has nothing to do with sexy factor. It's just confidence at its most pure form, I think.
And I think what's great about it too is because we all have those highs and lows in life. Like you mentioned, like one time $10,000, boom, $4,000. It's like the opposite side of the spectrum. But what's interesting about it too is this equates to everything in life that we do, whether it be adult work, podcasting. It doesn't matter how long the journey is, as long as you take that journey. And what I always say about that too, as well, because I'm sure you've had the highs and lows, we've all had the highs and lows, because we don't stop. You know what I'm saying? We don't stop doing what we do. And I also think that's very imperative to people because you will see results at the end of it. And what I always like to say, like you're talking about being an entertainer, which you are, actress, we're all applying our craft, equated to life. Life is an art form, and we're all applying our crafts. We're all in the same end game, if you will.
We're all just trying to make a living. And I think that when it comes to being self employed, that's honestly the hardest part because if we're not working, we always have this guilt about not working. And much of that is just capitalism having taught us that we have no value unless we're productive. And that's not fair to anybody. Like, even as adults, it's extremely important for us to have playtime. And I don't mean that like sexy or kinky, I just mean playing video games, playing a board game, doing a puzzle, doing something that is fun and engaging and that challenges you outside of work. And capitalism has really beat us into all of us that if we are not being productive, if we're not working, we don't deserve shit. And I hate that so fucking much. I hate that because it's not fair to anybody. Like, we all deserve happiness. We all deserve to live a fulfilling life. And a saying that I keep very near and dear to my heart is I work to live, but I don't live to work, which to me means I'm out here busting my ass 5 days a week for 40 hours a week so that I can still afford to do the fun things that I want to do. I love to travel. I love to bake. I love to paint. I love all of these hobbies that are honestly really expensive hobbies. Why do I do this to myself? But I want to be able to do those things. And if I don't work, I can't. But I'm a very high functioning, depressed person. And I know people who aren't. And they shouldn't have to work as hard as I do to have the same things, the same opportunities. And capitalism has just taught us all that we should pay attention to that. And that if I'm doing more than so and so, I'm better than so and so. And that's never the case. And it's really shitty because then it also creates all these mental health issues of, imposter syndrome, depression, rejection sensitive dysphoria, like all of these things. And none of it is good for any of us. And it sucks.
Oh, I hear you 100%, and it's funny too. Like you look at words like playtime, like you were mentioning. It's like here's the thing about not just the word playtime. People's connotations of words is absolutely ridiculous because they go one direction where it can mean sexy. No, and I'll be honest with you, folks. If you can see behind me here, I got the old PS2 right here. I love me some video games. I'm very retro with it. Sometimes you need to play that video game. You need to listen to that CD. You have to do stuff that really makes you happy and really puts you in the zone. Because if shit like that puts you in the zone, to put it bluntly, then that is what opens up your creativity. That's what gets the creative juices flowing. And we get to be very multifaceted, which I'm going to say right now with everything that you listed from painting and everything just in general. It's very multifaceted. And you got to love that, man, because you're a woman of many traits. I'll say you're Jill of all trades. We hear about the Jack of all trades. You're a Jill of all trades.
I mean, so here's the thing. I hate the term jack of all trades or Jill of all trades
Okay.
because it implies that you're not good at things. You're good, but you're not king or queen status. You're there. And I strive to be great at everything that I do most of the time.
Okay.
And not to shame anyone who does want to be a Jack or Jill of all trades, because I think that there's value in that too. I play video games. I'm shit at video games. I'm shit at it. My girlfriend doesn't even always want to play video games with me because she's like, baby, you're so bad at this. And that's fine. I'm just having fun.
Right.
But like photography and painting are two of my biggest hobbies, I'd say. And like, I'm good at those.
Well, we'll add up to this photography here, man, because I got to say this about yourself. Whether it comes to a lot of imagery, because here's the thing, it's like one's eye, and I'll make a pop culture reference. God rest his soul. When you used to watch Bob Ross do The Joy of Painting, I remember coming home from school, boom, like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Here's Bob Ross and The Joy of Painting. He's doing the little painting. He likes that. All of a sudden, you got a little speck here, and by the end of the friggin' show, we got a masterpiece. We got waterfalls. We got mountains. We got the whole nine, right? So if you can look at a painting like Bob Ross does, or if you can see art for what it truly is, and this is where you come into fruition here, Miss Sydney Screams, looking at what you see on the adult sites from the imagery, the preview pick, if you will, for seeing your content, another adult stars content. Looking at your imagery and the shots that go into it, people can see the work of art that a woman is, and I can see beautiful imagery. So it really compels one's eye and one's viewership of what they're seeing.
Thank you. I really love photography and I love videography. And if I could both star in my own videos and do videography for my own videos, I would. But I can't. So I trained my girlfriend how to do it. So Cassie, who you mentioned earlier, I forget if that was before we started recording or not, but Cassie is my girlfriend. And over the past, she started November of 2020, November 2020. Since then, I've taught her how to do photography, how to do videography, how to edit. Well, actually, she's taught herself how to edit. Excuse me on that one. But like, I like my things shot in a specific way. I want them to be well lit. I want them to be somewhat artistic, but also still explicit. And I love the way my stuff is shot because I taught someone how to do it the way I like it and how I want my brand reflected. And sure, I could hire just anyone to run camera for me, but at the end of the day, I want someone whose goal is as aligned with my own brand as mine. And even though Cassie and I run very separate brands, she's a porn star, I'm a porn star, we still help each other. And like, I shoot her content the same way I want my content shoot, and her fans love it. She shoots my content the way I want my content shot, and my fans love it. And at the end of the day, creating something wonderful and beautiful, whether it is explicit pornography or a painting that, here, oh wait, I have to turn off the blur. I'm not going to do that. I have paintings on my wall back there that you would be able to see if I didn't have the blur on. And like, to me, they're all forms of art. The paintings over there are of my pets. Like, I can paint a pet picture or I can make a pornography, and they're all still, to me, forms of creativity, forms of expression, and therefore forms of art.
Beautifully stated and absolutely amazing paintings. I will say this, and as well, when you talk about Cassie, and I'm going to say right now, you two on screen, and we'll talk about other stars that you've worked with as well. You two as well have great chemistry, obviously because of the relationship as well. But you put out the great content, and it shows. And what I wanted to add to that is because you actually said something that's beautiful: the lighting and everything that goes into said content. Because some people have that misconception when it comes to the adult entertainment industry. It's like, oh, they lay there. Here's some content. Boom, we got a scene. No, there's stuff that has to shoot that image to get that great, what we encompass in the photos, what we encompass in the shot. A lot of people don't realize like there's a lot of work behind the scenes that goes into said scene and said production.
Yeah, sorry, my screen just went all weird, so I hope that you're still able to see me because I can no longer see our screens. So
You're all good.
okay, cool. So I think lighting is extremely important. I really enjoy like moodier, not necessarily high contrast, but I enjoy sensual lighting. I enjoy playing with color. I enjoy clean lighting because clean lighting, everything is well lit. Everything is getting the right amount of light that it should. There's no harsh contrast. There's no, this white is too bright, no black too dark, because it all translates on camera. And lighting is just so important for creating something that is good quality. And the first thing I always tell everybody when I'm asked, what can I do to upgrade my content? Upgrade your lighting. Your lighting is the best thing and the easiest thing to upgrade to improve your quality right off the bat.
Right. And I mean, what I also love about it too is as well, and what really encompasses a scene, like we were talking like those membership scenes. Like I remember again as a kid, Naughty America is still one of the biggest ones out there. Like I remember my first sex teacher, my friend's hot mom. You'll see the pattern here, folks, of what we had back in the day. My friend's hot mom, Naughty Office. It's stuff like that that encompasses one's being and what we could see in like the workplace and stuff like that. That really encompasses to what we see in today's life. It's stuff like that. And I'm gonna say right now what's also very important, and I think you can agree with me on this, going into any artistic standpoint, because that's what it is. It's an art form. The overall storytelling that goes into the scene that leads up to the climax, much like any movie, that is so important as well. Like the storytelling in the adult scene is what really makes and encompasses the scene. Like you look back in the day when there was Kinky Business, right, which was the porn parody, so to speak, of Risky Business, because Risky Business was very big in the 80s. Tom Cruise, Rebecca De Mornay. Like there's a shower scene that's very infamous. There's stuff like that of the storytelling that really encompasses one's film as well.
I agree. And I love storytelling. Prior to dedicating 100% of my time to porn, I worked in marketing and advertising. And the most effective way of marketing and advertising has always been telling a story. And it's the best way to connect with an audience, the best way to connect with potential customers is storytelling. And within porn it's a little different because you're telling the story on screen, but if you can tell a good story as to why someone should buy this content, then they're going to have a better story when they buy the content, they watch it and they see it. And I love storylines in porn, and I know that that's not necessarily 100% about what you were talking about.
Right.
I think that stories are told even in gonzo scenes where there is no real storyline there. It's just two people having sex and it's wonderful and beautiful and all of the good things. But there's still a story being told there, even if it's at a very subtle, not at all obvious kind of way. And I really love that. I love every aspect of storytelling within this industry. It's really fun for me.
Oh, agreed. And I mean, it could just be like, I mean, I look at it from a stance too as well. I'll make a pop culture reference. 2008, I'll take it back. Zach and Mary make a porno. Like, you just see, like, right? Like, they're trying to keep everything afloat financially, and everybody's doing the scene. And it's just like, oh, okay, here we are, boom, boom, boom. But Zach and Mary, who have that connection, there's this beautiful, like, scene that they create. You know what I'm saying? So it's stuff like that that you see the difference of. I'm going to say right now, it's like the two L words, love and lust, right? Like you see the lust side of things and then you see the love side of things. So it kind of brings everything together, not just from a comedic standpoint, but it does show that romance as well in the movie.
Yeah. And I love that. It's not often that you get to have romance with a co-star, and it's great that I have a girlfriend who lives with me who will just film awesome content with me, and we can show people that romance exists. And I think especially for Cassie and I, she's a trans woman, I'm a plus size person, and we are taught very early on in pop culture, especially, that she is unlovable, that I am unlovable, that neither one of us deserve romance and happiness in our lives. We're always the butts of jokes. And we both, like, it's always been for me a goal to create content that makes people feel good about themselves. And having a partner who is also in line with that goal, like, I think the work that Cassie and I do together is some of the best work that either one of us puts out, whether it's her and a different scene partner and me on camera, or her and I on camera together and we've got someone doing camera for us. And it's just, romance is important and love is important, and we both want to create content that our peers, our people who have similar bodies as us, can look at and be like, damn, someone like me has a loving, supportive relationship. And I think that that's one of the best things about Cassie's and my public relationship. Like, we still have a very private relationship in a lot of ways, but publicly, we're here supporting each other as best as we can, showing each other how much we love one another. And I hope that it translates as well on camera as we try, because it's an important message that trans women are lovable, fat women are lovable, and there's no reason why any plus size person, why any trans individual shouldn't be able to find a loving relationship like ours.
First and foremost, it does very much transfer on the camera. It really does. For those who've not seen Cassie and Sydney, it does. It's a lot of great work. And I'm going to say right now, I always hated that, and I've said this with adult stars. Like I've had transgender talents on, BBW, what have you. There's so many walks of life, and like we were talking about, there's something for everyone. Like the transgender market for adult content, same with the BBW side of things. It's so amazing to see just like what a hotbed it's become, but also at the same time, it's like if you really, really understand and look at it, who fucking cares about the categories? It's like it's people doing what they love in the adult entertainment industry. It has that stigma, but also at the same time, it does show a lot of variety, and also at the same time incorporating one's fetish. Like there could be someone out there likes foot fetish. They like this fetish. They like that fetish. Some people like cosplaying and stuff. When I'm going to say right now, I know you've done some cosplaying as well with your superhero self, rocking it. I see you doing your thing. Much love. But
Thank you.
still, well, no, a lot of people get into that, and you don't realize what like a lot of people into. I'll be honest, there's some people out there that like pegging. Pegging has become another one that's really big out there.
I
So
love pegging.
and the reason I bring this up is because a lot of people get into that where it's like there's guys that do it, but a lot of people don't realize. They think of it goes towards like the gay or what have you category, but it's like no, there's a lot of straight males that enjoy that. It's like I always said in pop culture, like music, everything is subjective, right? Everything is subjective. Like when I was growing up, the big things in the '90s were the boy bands. You had Backstreet Boys, you had NSYNC, you had 98 Degrees. I love Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, and 98 Degrees. It's good music, but a lot of the connotation would be, oh, what are you doing, man? You're listening to that? I'm like, it's fucking good music. Enjoy music for what it is. And there's a lot of straight heterosexual males that like the Backstreet Boys. So everything's subjective and there's something for everyone.
Exactly. There really is. And, porn is the same way. There's something for everyone. And I love that because gosh, I learned so much from my peers, and I never want to judge them for the things that I learned from them, but like I learned some things that I did not know. And sometimes I'm shocked and I don't want them to feel bad that I'm shocked. I'm just like I had no idea this was a thing and now I know. And I'm a child of two academics, and so learning things is something that I kind of prioritize every single day. I want to learn something new. And I learned so much about people, about psychology, about everything just from my job. And I think that that's really exciting, at least for someone like me who puts such a high value on education.
I think it's great as we get older. We never stop learning. And that's very true. It doesn't matter how old you are, you never stop learning. Like it's funny, like you mentioned, like your colleagues and your peers. So when I was a kid, now True Life, now this is folks MTV before everything was catfish and reality show based. Like there was a little reality, but it mostly focused on music, right?
Yeah.
So and I hate to put it like that, but it's so true because everything's more reality television based now. But at the time, like True Life was a big deal because it focused on different, aspects, and there was some serious, there was some, not, but also there was something for everyone with True Life. So there was a True Life episode called True Life I'm a Dominatrix. Now, mind you, Dominatrix is also one of the biggest categories, and a lot of people are into it. So mind you, I'm like 12 or 13 at the time. So I'm like, my mind is like, I knew about it, like what it was, but then you like really dive into it, and it's like, it's a lot to take in, like the mistress side of things, and some people like the ball and gag, and it's just like, oh man, like you really don't realize like what a lot of people are into with the dominatrix side of things, but like a lot that goes into it from the role play side of things.
There's so much that goes into being a dominatrix. And I used to see clients as a dominatrix, and it was no one was the same, and everyone had specific little things that they wanted out of their sessions with me, whether it was someone who wanted me to verbally humiliate them while I kicked them in the balls, or someone who wanted me to be kind and generous and sweet while I kicked them in the balls. And at the end of the day, being a dominatrix is so much power and so much fun, but it's for me very quickly ruined by I'm a very nurturing person, and if someone gets hurt in a way that's not sexy, I'm like, oh shit, gotta
Right.
fix it now, and I really enjoy femdom, but something that I've learned about myself over the past couple of years is I really struggle to make fun of people. I'm not a mean girl, and I don't want to be a mean girl, and so I've kind of leaned a lot more heavily, especially with the pandemic. I've leaned a lot more heavily into sensual domination, the nurturing side of things, and I think that the pandemic has changed how a lot of people interact with dominatrixes. I don't know the plural, whatever. But I think that the pandemic changed a lot of people's expectations for their doms, because people were craving touch, they were craving intimacy, they were craving human connections. And the femdom stuff that I used to do is so much different than the femdom stuff I do now, because before it was like sissy humiliation, it was chastity, it was you're a worthless piece of shit. And now I'm like, that's not me anymore. I'm here to love people. I'm here to nurture people. I want people to do their best. And so much of my femdom is now centered around encouraging people to be their best selves, encouraging them to love themselves. And it's such a big difference from 5 years ago, even. It's wild how these things change.
Absolutely. And I don't mean to laugh, by the way. I thought about it as we were talking about, because there's a lot of nurturing and stuff that goes into it that a lot of people don't see. But I also laugh because it's like ball busting has become like such a thing. Like a lot of people just like, hey, I'll take a kick in the nuts. And people are into that because, like, we were talking about different varieties. Ball busting, a lot of guys just like getting punched or kicked in the dick, and it's one of those humiliation things that's very satisfying. It's one fulfilling fantasy, and it's like Mariah Carey once sang, given that sweet, sweet fantasy baby. And sometimes some people's fantasy is getting kicked in the nuts.
It's wild because I never really thought about how many people enjoy ball busting. But as you say that, I'm thinking about times that I was just out in public. I went to an art show one night with my friend Whitney, and Whitney Morgan, and we were standing outside having a drink after the show, and someone comes up, just like this complete stranger, and asks us if we'll kick him in the balls. Complete stranger. Didn't know who Whitney and I were, because Whitney and I were well-known femdoms in the Orlando area. Had no idea who we were, but just this guy had the balls to be like, "Do you want to bust my balls?" And we're like, "Fuck yeah, of course we do." Um, and it's wild because I never really thought about it. And then you said that, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, people do have this is a bigger fetish than I realize sometimes." And good for that guy for just asking people what he wants. Like, that's hard.
Yes, excuse me, ma'am. Could you please kick me in the nuts? Like, again, if that's what people are into, it's fine. Like, and a lot of, and you know what it is? Like, people would, like, we talk about like how years and evolution and stuff. A lot of people think that's weird, like at the time, and some people probably still do. But I think as we expand as not just horizons, but as a society, and it's like, you know what? That's kind of like it's the new, not the new norm, but it's normal, because you know what I'm saying. It's what people like. But what I also do like about yourself is, like, we talk about like Cassie and the transgendered side of things. Like, you work with Nicola Ofan and you work with Roxy Moth, who I've had on the show. Beautiful women, nonetheless. First of all, gorgeous. But you two also have another great chemistry, like you do with Cassie, and it really showcases on film. And they're doing their thing from FemWise as well. And it really, again, it's all that coexertion, if you will. You know.
Yeah, for me, I really like to connect with the people that I'm working with, and that's not always possible. And I try not to force it, because forcing it isn't good either. But like Nicola and I hung out and made out the other night. That was fun. That wasn't on camera. It was just two girls hanging out, having a good time, maybe kissing a little bit. And like, I don't have that kind of relationship with all of my co-stars, but I think the co-stars that I make the best content with are people that we know each other well enough to showcase the connection we have on camera. Like Raina May, she's another big titty porn star that I've worked with. She was one of my first girl scenes for Plumper Pass, and Raina and I have stayed friends literally ever since then. And her and I just have great chemistry because we just know each other. And when I perform with people that I know, I think my fans can tell that I genuinely like this person. And like Roxy, I'm seeing her later today. And it's great to have conversations with people and connect with people, and not just in a work environment. I've hung out with most of my co-stars that I work with multiple times. I've hung out with most of them outside of work, because having those connections only helps us make better content. And we live in a really lonely world sometimes, and I just want friends. I like being friends with my co-stars, same as anyone who's working any job and actually enjoys their coworkers. Like, being friends with your coworkers just makes your job a lot fucking easier.
Absolutely. And I think we all need that companionship. And I've always said this about today's world. It's too much of this when it should be more this. It's
Yeah.
too much divided instead of being united, not divided. And I think, first of all, you're bringing a lot of people together, not just from the sexual and physical side of things, but with your words. And I think we all inspire through our words and actions. So once again, kudos to you, because I think you're doing an amazing job on that front. And also, like Plumper Pass, you mentioned something that's great too about it as well. A great plus size and great content creation platform. And I've seen a lot of your solo stuff and work that you've done with Plumper Pass. Great website. It really showcases women like yourself. We're talking about Dahlia Van Knight. We're talking about Layla Lewis, like we mentioned. It's one of those things where it's like every single model, every single content, it just exceeds itself, gives you a lot of different role play and a lot of different scenes to really, muster here. But god dang, man, what a site Plumper Pass is. It's helped a lot of you ladies out.
It really has. And like I haven't shot for Plumper Pass since like 2015 maybe. It's been over 5 years since I've shot for them. And I still have fans who are like, I loved your content on Plumper Pass. Will you ever return? And, I maybe burned a little bit of a bridge there, and that's okay. But I'm also making my own content that is honestly on par. I don't always do my hair, let's be real, but I'm still glammed up. I'm still creating the same type of look and feel, but in this way, I'm having more control over what I'm doing. I don't have to have someone's seal of approval to do the things that I want to do. And not to say that Plumper Pass is a bad company, because they do give platform to a lot of people like myself. They make their performers feel glamorous, feel dolled up, feel loved, feel wanted, feel desired. And that's honestly a really fucking powerful feeling when society has spent your entire life telling you that you don't deserve those things. And, I may not always see eye to eye with the folks over at Plumper Pass, but I think that if we sat down and chatted, they would know that I do appreciate the work that they do, even if we have butted heads and we maybe no longer want to share each other's platforms.
Right. And I mean, you talk about burning bridges, and I always look at it like this. If something does happen, when there's like, maybe sometimes I think in life with anytime we can agree to disagree on some things, but then there's some people in life where it's just like, you could burn a bridge, but also at the same time heals all wounds, and people can have misunderstandings and things can be misconstrued. But I think at the end of the day, we can all come back together and also find a common ground. But if not, the other plus side is it's a learning experience and it's something that you value, so you can say that you had that experience.
Yeah, and I can turn around and tell other people, don't make the mistakes I did,
Mm-hmm.
because I see a lot of people who make the mistakes that I did, who eat their own words, and it sucks. A few years ago, Clips for Sale had a contest that people still talk about because it was an ass shaking contest, and people were fucking vicious to one another. And because of that, someone lost their ability entirely to have a Clips for Sale store. And I've seen that person talk about it multiple times over the years, because they recognize that A, they burned that bridge, and B, that that's a platform that they need to be on to make their bottom line. And, when you publicly burn bridges, oftentimes those bridges are not going to be rebuilt, and that's a shame. And so I hope that the times that I've tried to be like, hey, maybe that's not a good idea, you're going to burn that bridge, I hope that people take that for what it's worth, because once you burn a bridge, it's very slow to rebuild it.
Right. And I mean, it's one of those things when it comes to burning bridges. It's like some people can either, as people, sometimes, I mean, we talk about going through a lot of stuff, but as people, sometimes it's like, all right, I said this, but now, people can, differentiate and really become different people and really grow. And I think that's very much necessary in anything. Like you were talking about the professionalism side of things with shoots. One of the things I'm always about is AC. And no, I'm not talking about Atlantic City. I'm talking about accommodation and comfortability. And I think that goes a long way in life, and what you do with any profession is about accommodation and comfortability.
I like that. I've never heard that term before, but I do think you're right. Like, being able to accommodate the needs of other people, being able to make other people comfortable is very difficult to do. And, I don't always read social cues very well. And so I'm always out here trying to make sure I understand where people's comfortability lies, where they need help, where they need what. And I like that phrase. Sorry, I'm like thinking on that a little bit now. Oh.
Hey, I also bring that up because it's funny. I think it's just because with my personal experience, why I always like to say that phrase. It's like look at podcasting, right? And you also equate it to anything in general. Some people don't want to do podcasts, and that's fine because if you don't want to do a podcast, you don't feel comfortable. That's fine. You're just really not into it. It's cool. I get it. And sometimes people don't like answering the same question over and over again, which again I get too. But also at the same time, it's like any guest that you have on, like yourself, or just in general what you do, you have to accommodate the person with schedules and stuff like that and how they want to, go about things. And you also have to make them comfortable because number one, professionalism is key. Number two, you don't want to be a dick. And number three, you want to make them sure that the environment that they're in is something that's very enjoyable and very, again, going back to the comfortability, very comfortable for people. So that's where the accommodation and comfortability came in.
I like it. I like it. And I think that that rings true in a lot of aspects of life. I like that.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, no, and the thing too, also, I'd like to just add to that. And what I love about what I do here, and is it's funny because like we were talking about like how people can be closed-minded. When I started interviewing people like for the adult stars like yourself and many great content creators, people will look at you because it's like, oh, really? And it's like you have to understand, like when you're going into any interview, anything that in regards to this, like people have a story. And like we talked about much in today's forum, it's not like I'm gonna ask like, hey, so gangbang. No, you don't start with gangbang. You talk about the stories and then you get into the scenes. There's a progression to everything that you do. It's not just like, like, no, you don't, you don't do that, right? It's ridiculous. But people don't see that concept of, oh, what does this person have to talk about? So it's very interesting, can be frustrating, but it's unfortunately how people are.
Yeah. And that's, I think of it as that's okay because one thing that I place a lot of value on is that everyone is different. Everyone brings something different to the table. Everyone has different areas of expertise, or they're good at different things that translate well on camera. And I think a lot of the things that you're mentioning with being on a podcast really translates to being in porn. If I make someone uncomfortable, we're not going to have a good scene together. If someone doesn't work with plus size women, they're not going to make a good scene with me. So why even try? Like, I think that we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to appeal to everybody. And at the end of the day, trying to appeal to everybody is just very toxic for ourselves. And so, understanding that not everyone is going to be your cup of tea and you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea, I think is just really a valuable life lesson, not just in podcasting and in porn, but just in general.
It goes to the old adage, and I find this as I just turned 30 this year. Once you get to like 30s, the 30 range, if you will, and as you get older and you mature, it's like, and I'm gonna say right now, and to put it bluntly, it's like, fuck it. Like I don't care what people think. Fuck it. If what you're doing is what you love, then do it. Also, as the old saying goes, and as the old song verbiage is from Garden Party, you can't please everyone, so you got to please yourself. You know what I'm saying? So that also really adheres to truths.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Trying to appeal to everybody, it's not good for your mental health. It's often a sign that you need a little bit of validation from people closest to you, I think. And not that I'm a psychiatrist or therapist or anything like that, but I do think that if you're trying to make everyone love you, that you have some things that you need to work on because not everyone's going to love you, and that's okay. And that's a really hard thing to really come to terms with, like actually being okay with not everyone loving you and not everyone wanting to participate in something with you. And it's something that a lot of people struggle with. I struggle with it still. And like I think I've got a really fucking thick skin at this point. And it's okay if people don't want to work with me. It's okay if I'm not someone's cup of tea. It's okay if someone thinks I'm a fat ugly bitch. I mean, I'm fat and I'm a bitch, but I'm not ugly. But it's also coming to terms with people are going to think that about me because they don't know me and they just see what they see. And I know I'm better than that. I may be a bitch, I may be fat, but those are still words I still use to describe myself. And that's okay.
I would say you're very upfront and blunt, and that, I mean, a lot of people don't like that, but it's a good thing. No, I think it's a great quality about yourself. You know what I'm saying? You're very upfront and honest, and some people can take it, some people can, which I understand. But also at the same time, too, first and foremost, not ugly at all. Just gonna put that.
Thank you. Thank you. I know though. Sorry, I'm
Hey.
here, but like, I know I'm cute.
It's just truth, man. And I mean, I think that's all how I've always seen it. I hate, you know what it is too, and it's funny to like put it like this. I hate the term ugly because it's like nobody's really ugly. You know what I'm saying? Like we were talking about people's cup of tea. It's what people like. It's people's preferences. Like to reiterate that, but it's just like nobody's really ugly. And as I always go back to the spiritualized, God don't like ugly. So if you want to act in an ugly way, then your ugliness shines through. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to be like that just to people and just in general. So it's just like really see people for the beauty and the inner core strength, if you will, that they have.
Exactly. I may not be everyone's cup of tea appearances wise, but I'm a very likable person.
I mean, like you were talking about there, like it's that swag and confidence. Like I'm cute, yeah, this is me. Boom, here I am. I'm Sydney Screams. Like I like that. Like a lot of people need to have that form to just say, hey, this is me, and let's fucking go and let's take this fucking ride. Which I'm gonna say right now, and I have to put this over here. Sydney Screams is probably one of the best adult names that I do enjoy. I also love the name because there's so many great adult stars that have great names. And Sydney Screams is a great name. Like S squared, number one, number two. The Screams is part of Sydney. You add it's a lot of flavor. It's a lot of character based driven. I like the name.
Thank you. I really like alliteration, and so when I was trying to think of names for myself, I was like, both my first name and then my last name have to start with the same letter. They have to. I can't otherwise. And so Sydney was a city I had just gotten back from. I spent a semester in Australia studying at Sydney University. And I was like, you know what? This is a name that also works as a human name rather than just a city name. And so I'm going to go with it. And then it took a while to figure out Screams, but I really like my name. I think it's a cute name. It's got alliteration. I do scream.
Well, so I'm gonna put that out there because I see I like that. No, because I'll be honest, my mind was going there too, and I'm gonna admit that I'm a guy for God's sake. But here we go. No, it's the scream part. You can also incorporate to like orgasm and adult works, so that works. But also at the same time, sometimes you got to scream and let it out, and it really incorporates emotion. So it works for both tie-ins. So I think it works perfectly with what you're doing.
Thank you. I had originally picked it because at the time I was just doing fetish work. I hadn't started doing any hardcore, and I did a lot of tickling content, especially early on in my career. And tickling makes me scream. I I am very loud when I am on the receiving end of being tickled. And so even years before I had ever done my first boy girl scene, my first masturbation scene even, like I screamed on camera.
Sometimes you got to let it out, man. But no, I could see that. I mean, it's something that okay. So you brought up another fetish with tickling, and a lot of people don't realize. Like a lot of people just like the coochie coochie coo type of tickling type of stuff that really, really encompasses one's being. A lot of people like to be tickled. Some people don't, but then there's people that like to be tickled. And can you believe like the most simplest of things? Like people just love tickling.
They do. And like I hate to admit it because I never realized that it was much of a fetish of my own, but tickling is really fun. I am more of a tickler than a ticklee.
Yep.
But like one of my favorite things is like the foreplay, the kind of wrestling foreplay that leads up to sex sometimes when I've got someone pinned between my legs and I'm straddling their chest or whatever, and I can just kind of lean back and tickle their abs or tickle their legs. And then they like bounce around and I bounce around and it's fun. It's sexy. It's such a innocent form of foreplay. And I understand why it's such a big fetish for people because to me it's potentially a part of foreplay that leads into sex. I get that. I get it.
Well, it's back to what we were talking about with the two L's, like love and lust. And I'll be honest with you, I'm more of a love type of guy. So I'm going to say right now, if a female and we were in the bedroom together, if they want to start doing the tickling stuff to me, I'd be all for that. Because number one, the foreplay before we get into sex, and I don't know what it is. I think it's just me kind of being like a traditionalist, but I'm also kind of like the different kind of male. Like if I don't want to go right into fucking sex, it's like no, let's take our time. We're gonna enjoy the moment. We're gonna make some memories here. Boom, let's do some foreplay and then boom, right into sex. We don't need to rush this shit. Like it's fucking sex, you know?
I love a long drawn out sexual encounter, which for me can literally start first thing in the morning and never come to fruition until the evening. Being able to like every once in a while sneaky touch my girlfriend, grab her butt while she's bent over, come up and whisper sweet nothings in her ear. All of those are little forms of foreplay that can happen throughout the day that I just love and make me really excited for sex. And, there's a time and place for let's just get straight to fucking. But for me, I love foreplay. I love the build up. I love the excitement. And if someone can get me hooked first thing in the morning and keep me going and keep me interested all day long, that's the best sex.
Right. I mean, I'll be honest. Here's who is to blame for this. It's the voice. It's what it is. It's the phone sex lines at 2:00 and 3 a.m. You know what I'm saying, folks? Those commercials where it's like, I want to hear your voice. It's that. It's the I want to hear your voice lady. It does it for everybody. Like we see it. You know what I'm saying? Call this number on your screen. It's stuff like that. You see it, and mind you, it's at the late hours. It's the evening hours, the mid early hours of the morning. But damn it, it hooks you. You know what I'm saying? Who doesn't love a good phone sex line, right?
Exactly. Phone sex is hot. Sexting is hot. Like I sext on OnlyFans and Sext Panther, and some of my sexting sessions with clients, they get me just as worked up as sexting with my girlfriend while I'm out of town, or sexting with a lover, whenever. And people don't realize how much fun this job can be and how sexually gratifying this job can be, because some people are just like, oh, it's just a job. But like, if my fetishes align with my customers' fetishes, like, fuck, that's hot. That just makes it so much better. And I love getting to sex with my fans because it just makes me even more horny. And then I'm like, baby, let's have sex. And she's like, yeah, that sounds good.
Well, and it's stuff like that too, like the fans and the clientele. Like OnlyFans has a great content creation, not just for content, but the fans, the interaction's great, much like with anything in the adult entertainment industry. And it's funny, like what we see with products too. And I'm being a wrestling fan, I'll put this right now, and a lot of people can attest to this. So back in the day, we had the Girls Gone Wild commercials, right? And you look at it, how society that we were talking about. Here's how it adds up. Those commercials were in like 2003. Now, mind you, we've had shows like Jerry Springer with the Jerry beads and the girls. You know what I'm talking about, right? The Jerry beads. So look at Girls Gone Wild and those spring breaks. Mind you, the guy behind Girls Gone Wild is an absolute piece of shit and a scumbag, but I digress. We won't get into that. But the product in itself, like, it's just like, hey, these girls are on spring break. Oh, let's rip our, put up our tops. You would see those commercials during like wrestling and other stuff like that. And it's like, it's so funny because you look at that sexuality right there and you look at 2022 and with the way society has kind of changed. And there's some people out there that, get offended. It's one of those things. It's like some of that shit would not fly now, but also at the same time, you understand where it was coming from and how the business acumen and everything going into that, right?
Definitely. And it's one of those things, like, you can't change history, but you can learn from it.
Right.
And, Girls Gone Wild, we now know that the owner is a terrible piece of shit, but it also revolutionized porn in a lot of ways. It made it more accessible to people because it became something that was more casual. You had people who were just having fun, flashing their tits, like, woohoo, life is good. And that's awesome. That's how, in my opinion, that's how sexuality should be approached, is we're having fun. Let us have it. And I think that, as terrible of a person as the Girls Gone Wild guy is, he changed how people interact with porn. He changed he changed this perspective of people have to be porn stars to people could be literally just a hot girl on vacation, and anyone can be a porn star now. And I don't think that was so much the case prior to Girls Gone Wild. It was porn stars. There wasn't like people like me who are independent porn performers who manage our own sites and do all these things. It used to just be big name people who were on the DVDs, who were having the membership sites, who were in porn, and even within my own career, I've seen this industry change and become so much more accessible than what it used to be prior to Girls Gone Wild.
Right. And it's interesting, like as a kid, like you think of like the Cinemaxes and like HBO at night when you had like Taxi Cab Confessions and Cat House, the series. What was so interesting about it is like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, like again as a teenager, and you're really getting into it, like the hormones are raging when you're like 13 or 14. It just could go with any human being here, so I'm taking everybody back to health class. So it's one of those things here where it's like you see like Nicole Sheridan, and you see like all these people like at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning with their films, mind you, great films, but it's like, all right, I'm tired of watching the same person have sex all the time. Like, I need other people. So, like, Girls Gone Wild and all these other avenues gave it. And this is not the shit on Nicole Sheridan, people like that, but it's like, all right, how many times am I going to watch this film with her? Or how am I going to, oh, she's in this, she's having sex again, almost same plot. And it's like, I need something different, right?
Exactly. And I think that all of it has just kind of opened up so many wonderful doors for people like me, for people
Yep.
like my girlfriend, for anyone really. Anyone can be in porn now. And I think that that's really fucking powerful because it's one of the few industries out there where anyone is welcome. Anyone can be successful here. And yeah, there's ways that will make you more or less successful, but anyone can find success in this industry now. And that definitely wasn't the case 30 years ago.
Hell yeah. And I mean, also you equate it to modeling. Like modeling, there's so many, my God, like again, grew up with the Tyra Banks era and the America's Next Top Model era, and you see Naomi Campbell and you see all these women. But then there's women like Ashley Graham, like WWE had Nia Jax, The Rock's cousin, was a plus size model. Like plus size modeling's taken over. It's just amazing to see different women of all shapes and sizes killing it in the modeling game too, right?
Yeah, definitely. One of the girls I went to high school with is now a very successful plus size model. And like I see her in Nike campaigns. I see her in Calvin Klein campaigns. I see her everywhere. And I fucking love it because she a big girl and she's out there making a killing. And even when her and I were in high school, she wouldn't have gotten a second look. Like, she wouldn't have gone to go sees. She wouldn't have made the name that she's made for herself now. And there's just so much power in how people have changed their perceptions of people and of body size, even in the last 15 years. It's truly an amazing thing to witness. And I'm really glad to be here to witness all of it.
To make a pop culture reference, folks, it's like Blackstreet and Dr. Dre. Curves the word, spins the verb. No diggity, no doubt. Got to bag it up. So it's equivalent, but it's very true. And also, it's a great fucking song too. So I had to put that in there.
It is.
But and Sydney Screams, I'm going to say this right now. It's been such a pleasure and a privilege having you on the show. The overture's here. I'd love to have you back for a round two.
Yeah, I would love that. This has been super fun. It's been awesome chatting with you, and I would love to do it again.
What I always love asking, and we've provided a lot of pearls of wisdom, so to speak, when it comes to the adult entertainment industry and this, for you, because you do have that longevity, 15 years, you're doing your thing, you're constantly on the grind, you know what I'm saying? So for you, to any aspiring talents that want to get into the adult entertainment industry, what advice do you have of the ladies that now that are getting into it, that are rather new, coming from like cam modeling, this area, this category, going into the adult entertainment industry? What advice would you give them?
I think the best piece of advice that I could give is don't worry about fame. Don't worry about popularity because fame is nice and popularity is nice, but neither of them pay the bills. And I see a lot of people who have much larger followings than I do who make a fraction of the amount that I do. And I literally purposefully flew under the radar for about 12 years of my career. And at no point during that 12 years was I famous, was I popular, was I known. And I still was making a living. I was still paying my bills. I was still growing my business. And at the end of the day, having fans and having popularity is nice, but it's not going to pay your bills. Followings don't matter. Popularity doesn't matter. Even award nominations, like, yes, they're nice and they may mean something to you, but it doesn't increase the amount of work you get. It doesn't increase the amount of money you get. The only thing that will increase the amount of work you get and the amount of money you get is what you put into this industry. And that may be a little ableist. And so if anyone listening to this wants to have a conversation about it and hear a little further, because I know we're just about out of time, I will happily have that conversation because it is an ableist mindset to look at the industry like that. But sometimes it's about working smarter, not harder. And working smarter includes trying to avoid falling into the trap of trying to be famous. And don't try to be famous. Just don't. It's not going to pay your bills.
First of all, beautifully said. And number two, that kind of pulled on my heartstrings a little bit. I like that because a lot of people can feel that. I felt that. I felt every single word that you said. So that was beautifully and eloquently said. And Sydney, so Sydney Screams, before we do close this out, this is where I also give people the platform. Now, social media, it's all the rage. I know you're on various forms of social medias. The floor is yours, ma'am. Let everybody know where we can follow you.
So the best way to follow me is my blog, sydneyscreams.com. If anything happens to my Twitter or Instagram, that's where you'll be able to find out where I'm going. My Twitter is Sydney_Screams. My Instagram is Sydney Screams. I'm literally on every platform as Sydney Screams. So if you just type in Sydney Screams on Google, you'll find me. And it's Sydney with a Y, like the city in Australia. Sydneyscreams.com. Twitter.com/Sydney_Screams, Instagram.com/Sydney Screams. You'll find me. I'm fun, and I'm definitely a lot nicer than I am bitchy. I hope.
You're badass, man. No, you're 1,000%. You're 100% badass. Absolutely. And links will be in the description for Sydney's platform. One other thing I just got to say, because you did mention Twitter and Instagram sometimes. I'm going to say it right now. I'll put it bluntly. Fuckers. Constantly banning a lot of people and taking accounts down. Fuckers, man. A bunch of fuckers. I'm going to put it bluntly. And because I see a lot of your content and a lot of great models or adult content creators, and it's like, there's so much worse shit out there, and you're taking these poor girls down, right?
Yup.
I know I'm here, but it's ridiculous. We always have this conversation with social media because social media is so, like I said, it's so hot potato, like I'm talking about the Wiggles here, for God's sake. But yo, it's ridiculous, right? Like there's such guidelines that are just so
it's so chaotic, and there's no stability to it at all. I lost my account that I had since 2011. And so I've been having to rebuild my account over the last year, and that shit is hard. And that's with someone who has had a platform for as long as I've had. It's hard rebuilding.
Hey, I get it. I had to, I'll say right now, the YouTube channel, which you guys can see this on, I had to rebuild it because I put up an interview, and the site that it was on, it was like it was for a wrestling interview. It was like for mixed wrestling, like, you know, man versus woman, like intergender type of stuff. And they're like, oh, like the sexually explicit and, you know, like, no, it's, and then they friggin', I appealed one, and then they got me again for something else that was ridiculous. So I'm like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm just going to start over. Let's rebrand. It can be tough, but it's worth it in the long run because we all will see results, right?
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
So social media fuckers. And we're not going to end it on that. We're not going to end it on with social media fuckers. But what we'll end this on is, folks, go out of your way to follow this woman right here, Sydney Screams, because you're in for a lot of great content, a lot of great imagery, and a lot of great badassery, if you will. Hell yeah, I see you. Well, flaunt it. If you got it, flaunt it, Miss Sydney Screams. And before we close this out, what I also say, not just accommodation and comfortability, but beauty, strength, and dominance, the three key elements that make women the work of art that they are. And Miss Sydney Screams, I include you in those sentiments. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Have a great day, Michael.
Here's another one for y'all to peep. It's called MIKE on the MIC.